Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Really excited to have you with me and wanted to bring you up to speed on what's going on here. Just wanted to once again remind you that there is going to be, sorry, let me close some things on the screen here. I've got a boatload of everything. Just wanted to remind you that in the comments, I left you a lot of I left you the songs that we sang for Easter. Obviously, it's not us singing them, but some really beautiful renditions of all the songs, and I try to get live versions to give you a good idea. And as well, just wanted to take some time and just kind of share a little bit about what we did on Easter. And the main thing that we went after is Hebrews 12, 1 and 2. And I'm just going to read it for you here. And it says, "Also, let us run the race that is laid out in front of us. Since we have had such a great cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us throw off any extra baggage, get rid of the sin that trips us up, and fix our eyes on Jesus, who is the pioneer and perfecter of faith. He endured the cross, ignoring the shame, for the sake of joy that was laid out in front of him, and sat down at the right side of God's throne." And our big kind of points and what we kind of focused on Sunday was beginning with the understanding that Jesus is the pioneer. Like, I wanted to start in the middle. What does it mean that Jesus is the pioneer and perfecter of our faith? Well, first and foremost, the pioneer means, and maybe in your some of your versions, the NIV, the ESV, it also says the author of our faith. And both of those words mean the same thing in the Greek. In the Greek, it means the one who goes out in front, the trailblazer, if you will. That's what it means that Jesus is the pioneer. He's the one who went first. And it's really important to be reminded of that, because sometimes we kind of tend to treat Jesus like I was in middle school. I was a super nerdy, super awkward teenager. I didn't know how to talk to girls, and my mom still made me go to high school or to middle school dances. And I remember I would not talk to a girl to save my life. I would hang out with my friends, and I would stand awkwardly in the corner, and that was just kind of who I was. It's a mistake to think that that's Jesus, that Jesus is the awkward high schooler or middle schooler, and that we have to go pursuing after him. Instead, we need to be reminded as we begin here that Jesus is the pioneer. He's the one who goes before us. Without his grace, we call it in our church prevenient grace, which means a grace that is given to everybody so that they can even make the decision. Without Christ going first, without him being the one to offer that opportunity, we can't make that decision on our own. And the Bible's very clear about that. And so it's important to be reminded that Jesus is the pioneer. One of the reflection verses for you is Romans 5:8. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us, right? Um, and it's one of those things where it's like, I just want to remind you that when Paul says in Romans that we are still sinners, that means in not so uncertain terms that we were far away from God, and we were pursuing things that were opposite of God. But while we were still in that place, right, while we were still in the far country, if you will, Christ, by his great mercy, he died for us. He's the pioneer. He goes before us. And I hope that is an amazing blessing for you. The second thing is that Jesus is the perfecter of our faith. I gave everybody a keychain with the Greek phrase on it, tetelestai. And tetelestai is Greek, and it means it is finished. In John's Gospel, John 19:20, Jesus cries out in his last moment. What's interesting is if you go through and read all four of the Gospels, you're going to notice that in three of them, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, it just says that on Jesus' last moment, he shouted and surrendered his life. However, the eyewitness of John, who, remind you, is the only disciple who was there, who was present at the foot of the cross, heard what actually was said, and that is the Greek phrase tetelestai, and it means it is finished. And what's important to be reminded of this claim of Jesus is that tetelestai actually means in Greek to be completed perfectly. Right. I put some gutters on someone's house recently with some help, and I am not a gutter installer. And if you are a gutter installer and you went and looked at that job, you would say it is not finished. It's MacGyvered. It will catch water and it will push water away from the house, but it is not done by a master. Tetelestai is what a master craftsman, a master artist would say after they're done looking at their work and doing it to the utmost of their ability. They would look and they would say Tetelestai, meaning it is finished completely, perfectly. There's nothing you can add to it. It is done to the magnitude of my ability. And so when we talk about this idea of Jesus' saving grace, that can we really trust him? Can we really? Of course we can. His mark, his note was to us on the cross that it is finished. Notice he didn't make it a statement that is meant to intimidate us. He didn't say that you're finished. He didn't make it a self-pity statement. He didn't say I'm finished. Instead, he said it is finished. And what is that it? Well, it's the forgiveness of sins. We have a fancy Christian word. It's called substitutionary atonement. And what that means is that Jesus took my place on the cross. He took your place on the cross, and he was able to offer as a perfect sacrifice the debt that we owed to God perfectly. And so when we talk about trusting in Jesus, we know that we can do that perfectly because he's the perfecter. He does it to his perfect ability, unlike me who put gutters on the house. And then finally, we need to be reminded of what is our role. And I think the author of Hebrews lays that out. We begin with running our race with endurance and running with the great cloud of, as we're surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. Those people who are in our lives today and those saints who have gone home to heaven already, we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. And so, and we're to cast off the baggage that ensnares us. We're to cast off any baggage or any slaves that ensnare us and to run freely. And I believe that the message of the resurrection is this: Jesus is the pioneer, he is the perfecter, and on the cross we see that sacrifice. In the resurrection, we are reminded that we too are children of the resurrection. We belong to Jesus in that sense, and that we have freedom in that resurrected life. As we talk about pioneering, one of the interesting phrases that I didn't realize, but one of Jesus's most favorite phrases that he says over 30 times in the Gospels is, "Follow me." It's very interesting. And just my favorite one is John 8:12, and it says here, Jesus spoke to the people again and said, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me won't walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." And then Jesus in Matthew 4:19 says, "Come, follow me. I'll show you how to fish for people," or be fishers of men, maybe your translation says. Ultimately, Jesus' call for us is to run our race with endurance, which means that this is a race that is not completed quickly. This is as you might have heard it said, this is a marathon, not a sprint, and we are called to endure together and to continue to follow Christ and to trust in him. Secondly, we see here in Hebrews that we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. The Christian life is not meant to be done alone. And my challenge to everyone on Sunday was, if this is your first time or only time being with us, if you don't have a Christian community, you need to find people who can walk alongside of you, because we're meant to be reminded of the saints who have already gone before us, but also that cloud of witnesses. He's inferring to the folks who are meant to bolster and build us up, and so we're meant to be in community together. And finally, we're meant to cast off the baggage of sin. Sin only leads to death. We talked about that in James. The book of James makes it very clear that death is the only thing that sin leads to. We're to cast off that baggage, that sin, and to follow Christ freely into the resurrection life that he gives. I love that. And finally, the author of Hebrews reminds us of who Christ is now, that he has been glorified, his joy has been made complete in the good work that he has done on the cross, and now he sits at the right hand of the Father. We can trust him, we can follow him, and we can believe that Jesus has us because we know he's the pioneer. He went before us. His call to us is to follow him, which we can't follow somebody who's not already been there and already walked down that road. Jesus has already walked down the saving road of grace perfectly, and his invitation is for us to follow after him. And how do we know what kind of job did he do as a master craftsman? Tetelestai. It is finished perfectly. He's the perfecter. We can trust in him because we know that he's done it perfectly. If you can believe those things, then if you can believe that Jesus died on the cross, he was in the grave on Saturday and was resurrected on the third day, and he did all of that, as Romans 5:8 says, that God demonstrates his own love toward us, that while we were sinners, he died for us. If you can believe in that work, if you can believe in what Jesus has done as the pioneer and perfecter, then you can be saved. You can know him and have eternal life with him because we know that his work is perfect. At our church, we don't do rebaptisms. And I think the reason is fascinating. If you were to come up to me at any point in time and say, can you rebaptize me? I say, I can help you to remember your baptism. But I don't rebaptize anyone, and the reason is because I'm not going to make the declaration that God didn't do a perfect saving work the first time. You might not have been following after Christ, but when it comes down to what Christ does, he does his work perfectly. And so that's kind of where we left it, and I hope that you're encouraged by that this week, and I hope that it's a major blessing for you. Once again, I'm excited to see you back on Sunday, as we will definitely be back up online Sunday, and we're going to be continuing in Hebrews. We're going to go to Hebrews chapter 5. We're going to talk about Jesus as the perfect high priest, and I hope that by the end of this study, you'll know more about who Christ is than you ever thought possible. Also want to remind you, I'll be back on Wednesday, tomorrow evening, to walk through our next psalm together. It's been a few weeks, so I don't even remember what psalm we're on. I'll have to look that up tomorrow. How's that for honesty? And yeah, we're excited to walk alongside you at 9:11, or at 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock on Sunday as we get into Hebrews chapter 5. And if you're looking for a Mother's Day gift, our youth group is selling handmade chocolates for Mother's Day. If you live in the area, you most certainly can come and pick those up. Would love to we would love to be able to bless you, and this will also bless the youth as they're gearing up to kind of redo their space, get themselves a little bit more meeting room. The kids will be doing almost all of the work with adults supervising. It's going to be a really good blessing for them this summer, especially because they didn't even get to have a mission trip last year. So anyway, that's something you can do if you're interested. Go to focusonthecross.org, click on the link that says chocolate for mom, and you can get all ordered up, and you can pay right there online with a check or credit card. Sound good? Well, I am excited to get to spend this time with you, man. What a blessing it is. And I hope that you know, beyond all things, whatever you take away, please know that Jesus is the pioneer and the perfecter of faith. And we can confidently run our race surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, and we can cast off the sin that entangles us and run freely after him. His invitation to you is simple: come follow him. He's the pioneer and the perfecter. May God bless you and keep you. I'll see you tomorrow evening.